Welcome to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network, presented by X-Treme Threads. Your home for the latest news from the National Lacrosse League and indoor lacrosse. Now, let's talk some lacrosse with your hosts, Jake Elliott and Evan Schemenauer.
All right, lacrosse fans, you heard the man. It's time for Lax Class, presented by X-Treme Threads right here on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network. What do we do here? Well, you know by now. We grow the game one podcast at a time. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer, back with you here for another big episode. Episode number 23 so far. I can't believe it. Episode 23. We're into week 18 of the National Lacrosse League. Or no, we're not. We're past week 18. We're going into week 19. Just 2 regular season weeks left of the National Lacrosse League season. Not sure where it's gone. Evan, welcome back. Another big weekend of lacrosse in the rearview mirror and another one looking out through the windshield. This season has really just whipped by, but this last week, man, were there a lot of good games.
And once again, does anything surprise you in this league? You got to expect surprises. We had one team absolutely collapse on Sunday. We had one team who seemed to be dead, somehow find energy from I don't know where, and, an extremely exciting week once again.
Yeah, a bunch of one-goal games. We'll cover all that in mere minutes here in Stampede Tack's Who We Had. I don't think things really got any better for yours truly in week 18. So we'll recap the big week that was. We've been having a bit of a discussion, Evan, about face-offs lately, and where do you come out on this? How important they are to a lacrosse game? We're talking box lacrosse here. We know the importance of field lacrosse. I think we all can agree is a much greater importance in field lacrosse with a longer possession and what have you. But in the game of box lacrosse in the pro league, let's look at the National Lacrosse League. How big of an emphasis do you put on face-offs?
Maybe I put one a little higher than most, and keep in mind, I learned to play field lacrosse before I played box lacrosse. Maybe that's why. We saw a game on Sunday where one guy went 30 for 34 and his team got pummeled. So is it everything? It isn't. But the thing is, take the flip side of this. Trevor Baptiste, who is on the verge of setting the single-season record for most face-off wins. And that's the thing the naysayers point to is, but Philly's 3 and 14 at this stage. So how important is it? But it is important because Philly was down early in a lot of those games. And just because of Baptiste, it gave them that chance to get back in it. They could score, and they knew they were going to get the next possession. So they didn't need to worry about racing out to get goals right away because they knew they could get that goal, get the ball back, and every 30, 40 seconds they could get another goal. Maybe I put a little more importance on it than most, but I think it's vitally important.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I know it probably makes for a better podcast if we debate and argue that fact. But for me, like you mentioned Trevor Baptiste and him going crazy, Trevor Baptiste did his job. He came up with the possession. So to say that a faceoff is irrelevant because if you don't go down and score when you get that possession off the faceoff, well, then it becomes irrelevant that you won the faceoff. For me, I think you got to look at the offense. Does that mean that the offense is irrelevant now because the faceoff guy did his job? He came up with possession for you, and then the offense didn't do its job. So it's not, you know what I mean? But the offense doesn't get out on the floor if you don't win the faceoff. So I really put a big importance on it, and especially late in games. I mean, situational stuff is obviously going to come up. If you're up a goal late in the game and you want to protect that lead and you got possession coming out of the faceoff, then that's huge. Or if you're down a goal or two late in the game and you need possession after scoring to kind of keep momentum going, then faceoffs become really big. And I also think in the course of a game, when teams start to get on runs or try to stop runs, winning or losing a face-off has a big part to do with that. And if you're getting scored on 3-4 goals in a row, and each time you go back to the small circle and you can't come up with possession, it makes it that much harder to stop the run. So go ahead.
I think back to the days of Jeff Snyder, right, and these Calgary-Edmonton battles. I remember Edmonton down 2 goals, pulling the goaltender with 3 minutes left. And the reason for it is they knew if they scored, they weren't getting the next possession.
Yeah.
So it changes the whole concept of the game, having a guy that can do that kind of face-off production for you.
Yeah, and yes, Baptiste, just smoked it in the game on Sunday, but his teammates kind of let him down. I don't put any of that on Baptiste, and maybe in a situation like that, the faceoffs aren't as important as they normally would be, but I still think they have a real important. And there was a good battle on Friday night. Or was it Friday? No, Saturday night in Saskatoon between Baptiste and Thompson. That was almost 50%. It was. I enjoy watching the battle, the game within the game, if you will, in the small circle. So, anyways, just wanted to kind of talk about that right off the top. We got a big show coming up, a little coaches edition here, if you will, for episode 23. We'll have the head coach and the general manager of the defending champion Saskatchewan Rush, who had themselves a great weekend. We will talk to one Derek Jammer Keenan coming up here on the podcast in about 15 to 20 minutes from now. And then we will head off to the east. We'll go to Orangeville, Ontario. I think that's where Matt Sawyer may be. I think he actually might be up in the cottage in the country. So we'll have to check in. But Matt Sawyer from the Toronto Rock, the head coach of the Rock, will join us in about half an hour, 35 minutes or so here on Lacrosse Classified. But now, Evan, let's get into it here. Week 18, National Lacrosse League. You know the drill. It's Who We Had. It's presented by Stampede Tack and Western Wear, your complete source for boots, hats, belts, jeans, anything country. They ship Canada-wide, located in Cloverdale since 1967. That was even before I was born, Evan. Find them online at stampede.ca, where shopping online is still shopping local. Okay, how many games did we have? We had
6.
6 big games. 4 of them on Friday, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. Let's get into it here. First one on deck, and it was a dandy from the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario. The New England Black Wolves taking on the Toronto Rock. Former Rock player Steph LeBlanc was good for the Black Wolves, and this was a back-and-forth affair, tight most of the way. Nice, well-balanced scoring attack from Adam Jones, Robbie Hellier, Tom Schreiber, and Danny Lintner. Decent night for Jay Thornburn in the face-off circle, speaking of face-off circles, but those Toronto Rock, Evan, they find a way to win these close games. Another 1-goal victory. 13-12, Toronto. You pick them. I took New England. 13-12, your final.
If you're into stats, you're going to love the stat line on this game. Toronto wins by 1. Of course, you can't have a tie, so somebody's got to win it. Toronto outshoots New England 50-47. Both at 23 missed shots. New England won the loose ball battle 78-77. And both teams were 1 for 2 on the power play. You can't get much more balanced than that. It's literally impossible. Yeah, a game of swings where one team would go up 2, the other team would go on a run of 3 or 4, get the lead back, then the other team would go on it, and Toronto had a nice little lead there going early in the 4th. New England had a couple coming back and just couldn't get that last game. And how critical was that last little stretch there? New England had a shot to catapult themselves up to 3rd. They couldn't do it. Toronto still has a shot actually at 2nd in a home playoff game. Tom Schreiber started to find his form. Finally got a couple goals, I believe 4 assists, and also a lot of emotion at the end of this game. You could tell how important it was when Billy Ostrausser and
how about that,
to mix it up at the end.
Well, yeah.
Luckily, they didn't throw enough punches to get themselves suspended. That was the smart part.
Yeah, well, smart. They wanted to throw some punches, but how about the way that ended with Billy Ostrausser with the ball and he was just kind of trying to run out the clock a little bit, and guys were trying to stick check him and hit him and whatever, and he then kind of spotted Callum Crawford out of the corner of his eye and more or less ran right at him with the ball and made contact with Crawford, which drew the reaction of the Black Wolves, and you got to love Andrew Suter. I mean, those two guys are Orangeville boys and grew up together playing with each other, I believe, and you know, Suter did not like the way Hostreiser went at Crawford at the end of the game and kind of danced around the pack looking for him. They actually got tangled up, and they didn't get a great camera shot of it, but they locked up, and then they hit the turf pretty quickly, and that kind of spelt the end of it. But I always find it crazy when something like that happens at the end of the game and the emotions are running high, and then 15 seconds later you ask the teams to line up and shake hands. It's crazy to me that they do this in the regular season. We don't want to get off on that tangent right now, but you're just asking for it. When you're telling two teams of grown men that are just coming off a real emotional game, and then line up and shake hands and say good game to each other. It's crazy.
No, I've refereed many a hockey game where situations happen. It's like, go to the dressing room. Yeah,
and I think, like, honestly, they should make an exception in a situation like that where you just say, you know what, boys, like, you know, meet up in the lounge after the game. Let's hit the locker rooms here and cool off, because it has the potential to get real stupid, and I've seen it happen before. Rochester was in Colorado. The Mammoth trying to clinch a playoff spot against the Nighthawks. Another beauty of a game here, Evan. This one goes to overtime. A big comeback in the fourth by the Mammoth. Not enough. Austin Shanks returns. Benny has a nice one against his former club with 2-2, but it's Kyle Jackson with the winner in overtime. 10-9, your final.
And a controversial one. They reviewed this 4 minutes, and I thought Jackson was down. I guess the referees didn't quite see enough, and I don't blame them for the call that they made, but it was awfully, awfully tight. God is he disappointed in that effort by the Colorado offense. Definitely are not flourishing anymore. And, they needed this win to just get into the playoffs, focus on what they need to do in the postseason. And now they're still in the situation where they're not quite in.
Yeah. Well, never mind, not quite, Evan. They are not in. And we'll cover the schedule here, but they got San Diego coming up this week. Vancouver's got to go across to Rochester, but there's still a chance for those.
The week after that.
Yeah, they got San Diego and Saskatchewan. Vancouver's got Rochester on the road and then at home for Toronto, which will be a tough game, but listen, they play like
McLaughlin's a big concern.
Yeah,
you gotta think.
Yeah,
right? Like he was gone, and if he's gone for any period of time, Colorado is done.
Yeah,
that offense is sputtering so bad. There's no chance without him in the lineup.
No, so I mean, Colorado could easily go 0-2, but so could Vancouver. And if that's the case, Colorado still gets in. And you're right, if Eli is done, for a team that struggles to score goals, and Eli was having such a great season too. It's tough to kind of see that happen to the kid because he was playing so well. But Rochester gets it done in overtime on the road and foils the playoff dreams for another week here for the Colorado Mammoth.
My only error of the week.
Okay, so I was just about to point that out, that I picked my Rochester Nighthawks to win that game, and you took Colorado. So we were both 1-1 after 2 games. Then it was Georgia at Calgary, and this might have been the game of the week here, Evan. This was fun to watch. 2 really good teams just trading punches at the Saddle Dome in front of 11,000. Lyle Thompson with 7 points. Zed Williams continues to impress with 3 and 3. Dane Doby with 8 points, and right now he's my MVP, Evan. We can talk about that later, but I think the biggest story coming out of this game was starting goaltender for Georgia, Mikey Poulin, going down, and it was Orelman that had to finish the game, and he played well, but you wonder how far Georgia will go without their starting man. I should probably tell you the score. 14-13, Roughnecks beat the Swarm.
I'm going to be surprised if Poulin makes it back. I mean, a groin injury like that is normally...
I don't know if it was groin, though.
Recovery.
I think it was hamstring. Hamstring, I think.
I mean, yeah, maybe probably it's a hamstring, but I mean, even then, it's still a long recovery period. But you gotta, if you watch the scene of him being lifted off and all the Calgary players coming, tapping him and whatnot, you can see just how much respect this guy's got in the league. Can Orleman pull this off? If you ask a guy like Steven Stamp, absolutely. He's been a big fan of Orleman for years, and we're going to get to see whether Orleman can carry this team. You know, I took the Roughnecks in this one just because of the historical record, and I remember everybody picking the other direction, thinking, what are you doing? There's a reason for it, and you got to look at the history here. No, I don't disagree with you. When you look at the MVP this season, you've got to put Dane Dobie in that discussion. There's no question.
Yeah.
You know, he carried that team for a long time, and, you know, with no Wes Berg, he had to take a bigger workload, and he flourished in it. You know, the win does keep Calgary's hopes alive of finishing first in the West. It's a very long shot, but, you know, and there's still a shot of them getting a home game. But the bigger concern is Georgia, who is one of the favorites, and now what can happen? You don't know without you know, their stalwart back in net there.
Yeah, we'll see. And you're right. I think Dane Dobie has encompassed everything that an MVP should do, and that's make everybody around him better, carried the team when they were a little light in the roster up front, and has produced consistently every single week for the Roughnecks, over 100 points, 107 for Dobie heading into this week's action, in the top of the scoring race. And that, like, this guy's not a spring chicken. Like, it's pretty impressive what he's done this season and a career as a whole, but especially this year for Dane Dobie. He's got my vote right now, that's for sure. Unless something real crazy happens in the last couple of weeks, I think Dobie's my guy when it comes to voting. We got to move along. So another one-goal game. That's 3 in a row. One-goal contests here. That would change, however, as we move down to Pechanga Arena in sunny San Diego. Saskatchewan at the Seals, and this one was a big one, Evan. Kind of gave the winning team an inside track to home floor throughout the Western Division in the playoffs. Would decide the season series. No Austin Stotts in this one. Adam Shute gets to start once again for the Rush, and it was really 3-2 at halftime here in this game, but a 7-2 third quarter from the defending champs as they pull away 14-8 your final, and that's a big win for Saskatchewan on the front half of a back-to-back.
Actually, if you checked your phone in the last few minutes, the news that's coming out, and it's not official yet, Austin Stotts has an ACL injury. He is done for the year.
Yeah, yikes. I feared that was the worst. And just so you know, when we're working here, Evan, I am completely focused on the task at hand. I'm not searching through my phone while we're recording Lacrosse Classified here. So.
When a message like that pops across the top of your phone, because I got to look at my phone anyways, I'm talking to you on that way, it's like, oh boy. So, anyways, this game was 3-2 at the half, and the Rush offense was sputtering. San Diego couldn't get anything going. I mean, Kyle Buchanan was out there, but he wasn't himself. He wasn't his normal self. Garrett Billings was out there. He wasn't as fast as he used to be. Dan Dawson, that was something else to watch Dan Dawson in this game. Yeah. The guy was like literally schooling some of the Rush defenders out there. Only problem was nobody else was getting open for him to dish the ball off to and, you know, get easy goals. You know, the Rush had a 7-goal run late in the second, throughout the third. Literally, that was it. The scoreline's a little more nice to San Diego at the end of the game because they got a few late ones. But Ben McIntosh, what a weekend! 6 goals in this game, 5 in the one on Saturday.
Yeah,
you know, absolutely amazing. Kyle Rubish, Mike Messenger, both big games, and I'll say this right now. I had Steve Friolo as my Defender of the Year mid-season. I don't anymore. I got him third now because these two are head-to-head tops. I've got Rubish slightly ahead of Messenger, but not by much. And you can't say enough about Adam Shute. You know, this guy hardly had any experience at all. He gets thrown into the situation. And, man, has he taken advantage of it. And you think about it, you know, after the game Saturday night, some people were asking, or Friday night, they were asking the question, when Kirk comes back, does he get his job back? And the answer, I think, is yes, he does. but there's going to be an awfully short leash the way Shoot is playing right now. Now, this win, combined with the other result on Saturday, the Rush now have an 88% chance of finishing first. The way the tie breaks and everything work is going to be awfully difficult for the Rush not to win the West.
Okay, well, we'll get at the end of the podcast. We're going to kind of go through the playoffs scenarios here heading into week 19. So stay tuned for that. So those were the 4 Friday games, and I brought my laptop, my iPad, I had my phone going, I had multiple devices in the hotel room kind of set up, bouncing back and forth between all the games, and it was awesome, man. Like, it was a great night of lacrosse. So Saturday night was Fan Appreciation Night at SaskTel Center. Over 14,000 there to watch their Rush play as the Philadelphia Wings come to town. Well, they were waiting there for Saskatchewan, who did not get to Saskatoon until about 3 hours before game time. They went straight to the arena from the airport. And you just wondered how much gas was going to be in the tank for this one after a tough day of travel. Their plane actually got delayed as well. Adam Shute starts again, and this one was back and forth. Matt Rambo had 5 goals in this game, 8 points. Crowley had an 8-point night for the Wings. They look good for 45 minutes, Evan, but same old story here for Philadelphia. I don't like, and I thought, okay, is this the night here for the Wings? They got a tired Rush team. They were up 2 after the third quarter, had them on the ropes. 7-0 fourth quarter here for Saskatchewan, and they just stomped on the throat here of the Wings. 16-11 your final as they go away winning, Evan. I don't care who your opponent is, to do that in the fourth quarter for the Rush after the night before, the travel day, being down 2 going into the third quarter, and then 7-0. That was impressive.
No, it was their biggest character win of the season by a long shot. And yeah, this travel schedule was nuts. They were on a plane at 6:30 in the morning out of San Diego to catch a connection in Phoenix to try and get up to Saskatchewan. And the schedule makers got to fix that for next year. But let's get to the game itself. Yeah, 11-9. If you look at the first goal that Mark Matthews scores in the fourth quarter, watch the replay of that one if you can. He literally is out of gas. He throws it on net just hoping something's going to happen. It trickles past Buchan. And if you watch every player at that, celebrating that goal, it's like a really slow stroll over to him, a little tap, and like there is nothing in the tank. And for Philly to give up 7 to a team that's got nothing in the tank, like, there's got to be not only this mental issue of them, trying or blowing leads and they just got it stuck in their heads, but it's also got to be a fitness problem. There is no way you should be getting outrun by a team that is this dead tired, and they did. Saskatchewan, they took the momentum of the crowd, and they brought it to victory. A big win for them. Once again, Adam Shute, he allowed 11 goals, but he was 42 of 53. 80% from a goaltender that's on his second game in 2 days, plus a crazy travel schedule. That is one absolutely amazing performance once again from him.
Yeah, maybe the loudest I've heard Rush Nation. I haven't been there for a playoff game yet, but they were whipping it up pretty good. And you're right, Adam Shute was impressed. And for me, like, going into this weekend, Adam Schute's going to get the start again here against the Roughnecks. I firmly believe that. They're going to take. There's no reason to really rush Kirk back, to be quite frank. I mean, even if he's ready this week, I think you say, okay, we'll activate you on the roster, but Adam Schute's going to start. And if they beat Calgary, then I think you go with Evan Kirk. And if you lose to Calgary, then I think you go with Evan Kirk. You know what I'm saying here? Like, you start Adam Shute in Calgary. Evan Kirk's already played him twice this year. Calgary hasn't seen Adam Shute play before, except for on video. So I think that's a bit of an advantage there. And then either way, if you win, okay, we've clinched home floor through the playoffs. We can go with Evan Kirk. And then if Evan Kirk plays well against the Mammoth, you ride Kirk. And if he doesn't come in and, if you lose a game and you got to play Evan Kirk against the Mammoth, try and turn it around, and he doesn't play well, then you come back with Adam Shute to start the playoffs. It's a nice problem to have for Derek Keenan heading down the stretch here, and I don't think anybody saw it coming from Adam Shute except maybe Derek Keenan. Jeremy Thompson just under 50% against Trevor Baptiste. I'm not sure anybody has done that well against Baptiste all season long, except for maybe Jake Withers. One more game to go before we get to the aforementioned Derek Keenan here, Evan Schemenauer, on who we had, and then we'll recap the entire standings, who did what on the week that was. Philadelphia into Vancouver. This is an afternoon game, so not an easy schedule for the Wings either, and coming off that tough loss against Saskatchewan where they probably felt like they had it and then let it get away from them. They take on the Warriors, and the Warriors kind of sitting there. They'd had a week off. Their playoff hopes were still alive after the loss from Colorado against Rochester, so you knew they were going to be motivated, and I don't think Philly got the memo on what time this game started at. It was like 10-2 in a hurry. Philadelphia has not got a win on the road. They have not beat a team from the West. They have not won when trailing at halftime. Keegan Ball has put up the most points in a single game this season. 14 for Keegan Ball for the Warriors here as they put up a 19 spot on the Wings and win by 7. 19-12, your final in what was a bit of a concerning crowd in Vancouver on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, they claim 5,200, and I don't think anybody's buying that. It's maybe 2,000 in the building. It was really bad. But it was also the worst game of the year to watch. I have to say that, And a Sunday afternoon in Vancouver on a sunny day, that's a tough pull inside to go watch a lacrosse game that has really no meaning. And the thing about it was Philly, they must have been still had it in their heads as to what happened in the fourth in Saskatchewan, because the last three quarters they played the game relatively even, but it was 9-1 at the end of the first. It was over with in a hurry, and they already had 2 goaltending changes by the time the first quarter was done. It was sad. And to think Trevor Baptiste went 30 for 34, so possessions weren't an issue. They got 73 shots on goal. That wasn't the issue. Aaron Bull played fabulous.
Yeah, he did.
But this score line is actually flattering because Philly scored 8 of the last 11 goals when the game was long over. So yeah, you got to look at Keegan Ball's performance. 14 was just 3 shy of the all-time league record. And, Paul Day, poor Paul Day had to do the interviews, I think it was at the end of the first or early in the second quarter there with BR. And
that was a tough one. That was
about as good as it was going to be. Is like, the offense wasn't good, the defense was good, the goaltending wasn't good.
Yeah.
Nothing was good for Philly. Yeah.
Shout out to Chantel Chan for getting through that one because, and understandably so. Coach Day was not happy with his team's performance and, probably wasn't too happy with his own performance either. One performance I wasn't particularly happy was the Philadelphia Wings Twitter account, Evan. Brandon Astle, guys make mistakes. He called Philadelphia, Colorado one time. I think they mentioned Galway Abrams as David DeRuccio one time as well. And the Philly Twitter account started taking pot shots at Brad, and who is a former partner and a good friend of mine. And I saw you tweet back at him like, maybe you should get your own game notes in order before you start chirping other people. I was doing preparation before the Rush game, and they literally had 3 names on their own roster. These are their own players listed with the wrong phonetic pronunciation. So, like, if I didn't know it was Kyle Matisse and I had just read his game notes, that was the first time I've ever seen Philadelphia, I would have been calling him Kyle Matisse all night. Like, so if you're going to, start chucking darts at people, maybe get your own house in order before you start doing that. And I understand. It's been a tough year for Philadelphia, and there's probably a little saltiness there, but, you're getting pumped 9-1 after the first quarter, and you're chirping the opposing broadcast team. I didn't really understand it, and I didn't like it too much, so I just wanted to have a quick say about that.
I was more than happy to defend Brad on that one. It was like I was just hoping he would say Matisse just because it was in the game notes.
Well,
and people in the SaskTel Center, because Kyle Matisse had quite a few points in the start of the game, and the in-home announcer, Mike Aguirre, is saying Matisse, and they're all like, is he screwing this up? I'm like,
yeah.
Actually, no, it's not his fault on this one.
He's reading the game notes. So, I mean, and now that you've actually done it, Evan, when you're on live radio or live TV, you're going to make mistakes. It is not an easy job, and it's pretty easy to kind of sit back and criticize people when you've never done the job, and until you've done it, I don't think you have the right to do it, and if you have, then maybe you can have some feedback on the situation, but just maybe stay in your lane in the future as far as that goes. We got to get the break here, Evan. That was a good opening segment, but before we do, what did you go that week? What did I go that week? And how bad is it now after week 18?
I went 5-1, so I'm 61-29.
That's impressive. I got to give it up to you for that, man. That's a nice number right there. Good job.
And you went 4-2, so you're 54-36. So I'm up 7, and there's only 9 games left. So you're literally going to have to pick everybody. I think that's your only option.
Yeah, I don't see myself coming. I mean, I could, but then it's going to affect my overall record. But does that really matter? I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like this is my first year going on record with my picks. I want to have a decent record at the end of it. So I may just, I kind of thinking back, Evan, that I've done way better when I've made my pick first and not reacted to what your pick was. When we were kind of trading back and forth, I was doing way better. And now I've kind of let you get in my head and kind of slant the way I'm picking my picks here. So I think this week, I don't care who you pick. I kind of wrote down who I'm going to pick, and I think for the final 2 weeks here, I'm just going to pick who I think is going to win. And if I come up short and got to put some chaps on along with a big belt buckle, so be it.
So you want me to host week 1 of the playoffs is what you're saying?
Well, yeah, maybe I do. We shall discuss. But we'll do that at a later time because now we got to get to break. We got the head coach and the general manager of the Saskatchewan Rush coming up next. It's Derek Keenan right here on X-Treme Threads, Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Pure Vita Labs is proud to bring you the highest quality sports supplements on the market. PVL products are 100% all-natural with no artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. And the entire line is also Informed Choice certified. We designed all our products with the athlete in mind. We look forward to being a part of your athletic achievements, helping you push the bar higher, win at the highest levels, and set personal records for years to come.
Hey, this is Andrew Suter of the New England Black Wolves. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified here on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network, growing the game one podcast at a time. Pure Vita Labs helping us do that here on Lacrosse Classified. Find them at pvl.com or their social media. They're big on the Instagram at Pure Vita Labs. Anything else would be on Sportsmanlike. All natural supplements there from our friends at Pure Vita Labs and lots of athletes in the National Lacrosse League on those supplements. I suggest you check them out. Do it at pvl.com. Now joining the podcast, it's back in Ontario, is the head coach and general manager of the Saskatchewan Rush. It's Derek Keenan. Jammer, thanks for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys.
My pleasure, our pleasure. Speaking of pleasure, you must have experienced a bit of that over this past weekend. Nice to go 2-0. Why don't we start with San Diego? Real important game down there on Friday night, and always with a doubleheader, Derek. I guess it's important to focus on the task at hand and not look ahead. You guys did a nice job of that, getting past the Seals.
Yeah, that's always the plan on those weekends. You don't even discuss anything about game 2. You focus in on the first one, and I thought we were really well prepared for that game. We had a little bit of trouble scoring in the first half, but I thought defensively we were solid for the entire night, and then our offense got going in the second half, and it was a big win for us. Big win in the standings, big win in that it was a season series tiebreaker, and that's always important. So it was a real good start to a tough weekend.
Talking about game 2 of the weekend, start of the fourth quarter, it looked like that team was out of gas. And we were talking about this earlier. Mark Matthews' first goal in the fourth quarter, he has nothing left. He throws it on net, happens to squeak by, and even all the boys, they were not celebrating. It didn't seem like there's much. You've got to be very impressed that these guys somehow found a reserve somewhere in them in that fourth quarter to pull that 7-0 quarter out of them.
Yeah, it looked to me like maybe the last 5 minutes of the third quarter we were tired, and I thought especially on the offensive end, we were kind of standing around a little bit and not really doing a lot, and then somehow, they just dug deep, and our energy level in the fourth was incredible, and it's just a real credit to the guys for sucking it up and understanding the importance of the game, because if we had lost that once Friday night, certainly wouldn't meant as much. So it was important that they did that, and I was certainly proud of them, because it was not easy circumstances. Our travel day Saturday was brutal, and but they came through in the end, and we had a real strong fourth quarter. Really a strong game overall in difficult circumstances, but we just seemed to pick up our energy level in the fourth and came away with a big win.
It sure was. As we speak with head coach and general manager Derek Keenan, and you mentioned the defense, Jabber, and it was a topic earlier in the season about guys kind of not being on the same page, maybe not knowing their roles properly, and missing assignments. That has really seemed to dissipate, and I don't know exactly how to put my finger on it. Is it just a matter of guys like Jordy Jones and Travis Cornwall and Scotty Campbell just being more familiar with the system and the guys around them, that it's almost become second nature instead of having to think? They're just reacting now?
Yeah, definitely. That's been, a few new bodies back there, and a little bit of unfamiliarity early on, and a lot of hesitation, and some mistakes that we kind of continually made for a while there. But we knew from the beginning of the season that the defense is going to be a work in progress, but I'm really happy with the way they've come along. I think Scott Campbell's made a huge difference for us. Veteran guy, smart, physical. He's been really good. And the other guys you mentioned have steadily improved. I think Travis has been really good the last 4 or 5 games, and Jordy's been pretty solid all year. So just a little bit of that, understanding things and being able to react, and just a lot more confident, I think, in each other and themselves than we were earlier, and it's been good to see.
And maybe some guys that you didn't mention in there, and I was kind of in the room with you after the game, and Kyle Rubisch came in, and you're like, "You're back, eh, Rubes? Like, you're back." And I had to chuckle because he is back. Kyle Rubisch, we can talk about, and I know a lot of people know about Kyle Rubisch, no question about it. But for me, the other two guys that have really kind of stood out on your back end this season, Derek, is Hossack and Messenger. I mean, these guys, with the departure of Cornwall and Dilks, have really taken their game to another level. Mike Messenger in particular, like, he is off the charts good right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned the Rubisch thing, because it's kind of a bit of an internal joke with the guys.
Okay.
He really hasn't gone anywhere.
Okay.
He's been the best in the business for a long time, and I think, so that it's kind of a funny thing we started about a month ago. But anyway, Ness has been physical, really good in transition. He's improved that part of his game, making better decisions. As much as he scored a few big goals, I think the biggest thing about Ness is he's been smart enough this year to pull the ball out at the right time. And of course, his physicality on the defensive end, he's a force. And, he's been really good. And Hossack as well. I mean, two guys just continue to prove, came in the same year. Been a real big assets for us this year, and having to take on bigger roles now with the guys we've lost and that. So, and they've certainly handled it well, and certainly embraced the challenge and continue to get better, I think, every week.
And the other story, of course, of the Rush right now is the play of Adam Shute. I mean, Buffalo game, Evan Kirk goes down. The coach's worst nightmare. Your starter's going down. You got a relatively inexperienced backup coming in. you've got to be massively impressed that he's been able to hold the fort as well as he has.
Mm-hmm. He's been great. Yeah, I mean, that's why we kept him. I mean, we loved our previous backup, Tyler Carlson, and great team guy. And that, I just felt that if something like this were to occur, we'd have confidence in Adam Shute that he could get the job done. And he's been really good. The guys are pretty confident in him, and he seems to be getting better even week to week the more he plays. So he's been excellent. He's given us an opportunity to win, and he's another guy I thought on Saturday started to run out of gas a little bit, but then in the fourth quarter was outstanding. So credit to him as well for kind of sucking it up and understanding the importance of the moment. But no question, he's been quite good.
Speaking with Derek Keenan, a couple more minutes here with you, Jammer, and you mentioned Kirk going down, and that was something this team has never really had to deal with. And not only a goalie going down, but really from the start of the year with some adversity, losing some players, having some injuries, now Evan Kirk going down. This team has not really had to face that kind of adversity, at least since not maybe moving to Saskatchewan. I think sometimes the regular season, when you're winning championships, becomes a little bit mundane. Do you think this can actually turn out to be a good thing for this team, having to deal with a bit of a roller coaster year and some key injuries to kind of battle through it and come together as a team a bit?
I think we played better since it happened. I really do. I think there was a pretty clear understanding. I think the entire team, our offense or defense or transition game just was not really the way it's been in the past. And I wouldn't say that it's because winning becomes mundane. It's just
probably the wrong word. Probably the wrong word.
Just some circumstances, and probably a good number of guys really not playing up to capability, and I think that injury kind of really it woke us up a little bit. I think, and I think since then we've as a whole group we've played way better than we were earlier in the year. So if that's what it took, then so be it. But I'm not even sure was sort of the trigger point, but certainly it seems that since Kirky got hurt, we've played a lot better as a team in all areas.
A lot of guys will tell me that you are the greatest general manager of all time, and maybe you don't quite see it that way, but when you look at the number of draft picks that you've amassed, and you're going to have 3, maybe 4 first rounders this year, which gives you a lot of flexibility. But the one I go back to is, if you go back to the Brody Merrill trade, and then you go and trade all these pieces away, it's amazing to look at the list of players that you got out of this. Mark Matthews, Robert Church, Ben McIntosh, Connor Robinson, Chris Corbeil, Jeremy Thompson, Nick Bielich, Marty Dinsdale, Nick Finley, not to count Zach Greer, Jared Davis, Tyler Carlson for a time, and you still have 2 draft picks out of this. Do GMs have any reluctance to call you anymore?
I can't keep a straight face.
I don't think so. No, you know what? That's just a lot of it. Honestly, that's just pure luck. Like you know what? That was a major move by a team. In my third year, when we first came in, we kind of really blew things up, but we tried to win right away, which we were pretty good in 2010 in Edmonton. We kind of turned the franchise around, made the playoffs for the first time, but then we took a big step backwards, and we didn't really have a lot of assets. I mean, the only way to get them was to trade our best player, and it was really, really hard to do. But in the long run, it was the right thing to do and the best thing to do for the team going forward, and as it turns out, for many years to come. So, but it was, there was certainly no crystal ball there as to it would turn into all of that, but it's obviously worked out well, and with some luck too. Honestly, we ended up with some first overall picks that you just wouldn't normally get. It just you do a deal with a team like even the Corey Small trade, really, really hard to do. We get 2 first rounders, and it just so happens one of the years Vancouver finishes last, and we got another first from them going forward to this year. But that's just luck too. It's not anything to do with being any friggin' genius, I'll tell you that much.
I'll take some of that luck anytime.
Yeah. Now, one thing I do still have to get you going someday is I know you're a fisherman in Saskatchewan. In Saskatchewan, some fine lakes. There's one lake about 90 kilometers east of Saskatoon I have to take you to sometime. But here's the question. Is the question I ask of all the players on the Rush so far this year. What's the one thing about Saskatoon that has surprised you the most since the move?
Without question, the fan support. Like that's that's the easy. It's a pretty easy answer because and I'm sure Bruce and Al Riz and everybody that made the decision to do the move. It was a bit of a roll of the dice. I mean, obviously, we were bringing a good team, which really helped, but I don't know for sure if anybody knew we were going to get that kind of support. So. We were leaving a bit of a tougher situation in Edmonton because of the arena deal and wasn't a great relationship with the city or the arena manager. So, and we came into a great situation, like a really fair arena deal. And then the support just kind of came, like, again, fortunate, you bring a pretty good team, and win a championship the first year is a little bit of a storybook, but that's been without question. The fan support's just been incredible.
Fair enough, Derek. Hey, listen, I'm sure you got like a squash game or a racquetball or maybe like Taibo or something you got to get to. I'm actually watching game. So there you go. Okay, what's the score?
It's Calgary's up by 1 right now.
All right.
So we're gonna have to play a lot better defense than Georgia did against them, from what I see.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I will see you in Calgary, man.
All right, you bet. Sounds good.
All right, that was Derek Keenan.
Guys.
Yeah, thank you. That was head coach, general manager of the Saskatchewan Rush, Derek Keenan. We didn't really get a chance to get into the Calgary game, but that's going to be one to watch this week. That's for sure, Evan. Saskatchewan and Calgary. Anytime those two teams hook up, it's always a dandy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's the biggest rivalry potentially in the entire league, and right now, Saskatchewan can lock up first place in the West with the win. Calgary can keep their hopes alive for a home playoff game with the win. And you're going to have, 3 busloads of Rush fans making the trip down. So there's going to be, on top of the other people that go on their own, there's going to be probably 1,000 or more Rush fans in the building. So it's going to be a loud Rush atmosphere in the crowd as well.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention it when we talked about Georgia and Calgary. Jesse King, the natural, making his debut for the Roughnecks, but the return to the National Lacrosse League. And the last time that Calgary was in Saskatchewan, I was talking with Mike Board at the airport, and I just said, how's Jesse doing? Because I really love to watch Jesse King play lacrosse. And he goes, he's coming along. He's ahead of schedule. He may be ready for the end of the year. And I kind of thought that was lip service, like, yeah, right, he's going to be ready for the... But... there he was, and had a big hit against Krepensek, and played pretty well for a guy that had been off and hasn't played a game this year. So that's an extra dynamic Saskatchewan defense we'll have to deal with coming on Saturday night. That was a good conversation. Always is with Derek Keenan. Gives it to you straight, and I'm sure this next guest of ours will do the same. It's the head coach of the Toronto Rock, Matt Sawyer, next here on X-Treme Threads, Lacrosse Classified.
Associated Labels and Packaging is in the business of creating first impressions. They'll help you reflect your company values accurately by offering solutions that fit your product needs. With the latest in printing technology and over 35 years of experience, Associated Labels and Packaging is the perfect fit for your company to take your labels and packaging to the next level.
Hey, this is Garrett Billings of the San Diego Seals and the Langley Thunder. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on Lax All-Stars, growing the game one podcast at a time.
All right, welcome back to X-Treme Threads, Lacrosse Classified. Big thanks to our friends at Associated Labels and Packaging, one of our fabulous sponsors here on Lax Class. They create first impressions, and they're darn good at doing that. Find them at associated-labels.com or at Associated LP, as in labels and packaging. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer with you here on Lacrosse Classified. Great chat there with one Derek Keenan. But now we will talk to another head coach in the National Lacrosse League. A bit of a coach's show here this week. It is the head bench boss of the Toronto Rockets, Matt Sawyer, joining us here on the program. Matty, I think this might be a first. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. I think it is my first time on with you and Evan. I've talked to you a lot over the years, but first time on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I think when we kind of got formally introduced, it was through our mutual buddy Josh Sanderson, who is also another coach in the National Lacrosse League. But I think it was back in, I want to say 2010 in Coquitlam at the Minto Cup, as you brought your Orangeville Northmen west for the Minto. That was like 9 years ago, man.
Yeah, time flies, eh? I ran into you then when we did, if you want to go back further, we competed against each other at one time, did the National Cup as well.
Yes.
But,
so I'll bring up
95, we're showing our age now. So,
I wanted to bring up a bit of a dagger for you because you guys didn't win that Minto Cup.
But yes, I got to reunite a little bit in 2010 there.
Yeah, you got the best of me back in the 90s, and then my ad next got the best of you in 2010. Well, why don't we start there, Matt Sawyer? Like Terry Sanderson, kind of your mentor, if that's something I can say, and I think I'm pretty comfortable in saying that. You kind of were his protege coming up. What was the experience like there in Orangeville, becoming the head coach and kind of starting to cut your teeth as a bench boss?
Well, yes, and you mentioned Terry, and obviously somebody that I was around a lot growing up, and really just not until my junior playing days did I get an opportunity to be coached by T and have a firsthand experience there, and certainly had my eyes open to to what a coach is all about, but also what a lacrosse player needs to be all about. So it was a great experience there, and learned a lot from him. And then he gave me an opportunity to get in the NLL back in. And I may have my years wrong here, but it was the first year with the Montreal Express, I believe 2002, and I was just fresh out of playing in junior and got an opportunity there to coach with Terry and Lindsay and later on John Lovell, and learned a lot from all of them. So shortly after that, I got the opportunity to coach in Orangeville, somewhere where I grew up, and organization that I played 5 years of junior for. So I guess that was my first opportunity to be a head coach and kind of start growing myself as a head coach. And I remember when I got that opportunity, the first guy I called was Bruce Codd. Asked him if he wanted to help me out. So kind of come full circle with Bruce helping me on the bench in Toronto.
A big win for you Friday night against the Black Wolves. You guys are the kings of these one-goal victories this year. But obviously, not only is it help you push to get a home playoff game, but more importantly, probably is going to help you build momentum going to the playoffs.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of them, Evan, and I think it's 8 of them, and we lost the first one, which was second game of the season against Georgia at home, and an overtime game. But you're how do I put it? You're always striving to be a little bit better and maybe give yourself a little more separation. And I've said this before here this week about our team, but the reality is that this league, a lot of it comes down to 1 and 2 goal games, and especially when you get towards the end and all the best teams are playing. So, we're hoping that experience, is going to pay off, because that's likely going to be the reality in the playoffs. Now, would we have liked to have won a few more of them by 5 or 6 goals? For sure. But, maybe that's not what we are. And maybe we are a team that just needs to play our game and be confident in our game and against whoever we play, have the hope that you're going to come out on top.
Well, and the more times that you do come out on top and you get that winning goal and you win by 1 goal, the confidence and the belief that you can do it again and again just continues to grow, because you've been through it, you've done it, you've had the success, and then you just start to believe. And once you get that belief in you, that can take you a long way. As we speak with the head coach of the Toronto Rock, Matt Sawyer, and the team there in Toronto, Matt, has changed quite a bit in the last 2, 3, even 4 years, from an older, veteran-laden team to a very young, quick, athletic team. And you know, you don't have to look any further than your captain in Challen Rogers, who is just mind-blowingly good every time I watch him play. Probably wasn't the toughest decision to put the C on Challen at such a young age of such a storied franchise, but just talk about that dynamic, Matt, and the decision process to make Challen Rogers your captain.
Well, you know, you mentioned about the type of player Challen is, and how fortunate were we to be able to draft him second overall in the entry draft. And you know, you mentioned we don't have a you know, an overly old team. We're younger, kind of top to bottom, and you know, we had a lot of good candidates who you could have put the C on, and I don't think anybody would have questioned it. We just felt that Challen one was overly deserving of it. You know, he's somebody that he's a quiet leader, and he goes about his business on and off the floor, and he prepares himself for the season or for the each and every game, be it that week. And you know, he was just really deserving of it, and he's somebody that we felt the timing was right. You know, with the makeup of our team, and you know, just the direction we're going. The fact that he's totally committed himself to the Toronto Rock, he's relocated. You know, he's a great presence for the organization in and around Toronto and Oakville as well. And you know, you put that all together, and really in the end, it was a no-brainer for me.
You had a game this week where you had a overlying story, of course, with what happened the prior time you met with New England. Was there any talks or anything with the players as to you got to focus on this game rather than the guy that caused the incident last time that you two played?
Yeah, to be honest, no, like we didn't address it with the team. Overall, it's just you know, it was a big game, right? And one that both teams wanted, and if you're looking for a retribution, you know, that wasn't the night. And you know, it's something that when the incident happened, and you're going back 5 or 6 weeks ago, that you know, I had some conversations with Brad shortly thereafter. But yeah, like I said, to be honest, it's not something that we addressed going into that particular game. It's just you know, every game is so important, and it's not really a league where you can take that into your own hands either. And you know, you got to be careful about suspensions. You got to be careful about putting your own team in the hole. So that was how we chose to handle it.
Couple of more minutes here with head coach Matt Sawyer, the Toronto Rock, and maybe Matt, like these are kind of never easy to answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Is there an area of your team that you've been pleasantly surprised about, and maybe an area of your team that you've been a little disappointed about? And I think you could maybe even equate that to a player or two that you've been pleased with, or maybe one or two that you'd like a little more out of.
Well, I'm not going to get into specifics about individual players.
I had to try.
Yeah, no, that was a great question, but you didn't get me to bite on that one. It's you know, listen, you're from week to week, you're always striving for consistency from individual players, and also from the team and their units, be it the offense, defense, goaltending, special teams, whatever it is. And you know, I don't think there's any coaching staff or coach that's going to tell you they're completely satisfied and happy all the time. And if you are, you know, you might not be in a good spot, because you always got to be trying to get better. So we've had our moments individually as players throughout the season, and also, you know, our offense or defense, goaltending. You know, we've all been real good at times, and there's been some nights when they've left you wanting a little more. Having said that, we feel as a staff that you know, we're in a good spot right now as a team. We feel that you know, we're hoping that we're peaking at the right moment. We're slowly getting healthier. It would be nice to get Sheldon Burns and Brock Sorensen back, something that you know, we've dealt with for a good third of the season. Those two and Adam, and you know, 11-6 is probably where we deserve to be under all those circumstances.
We asked the fans ahead of time if they had any questions for the coaches today, and here's one that popped up. I'll throw it your way.
Yeah.
It's a young guy that's first-year coach. He's coaching novice and peewee, and he was asking, what's the best tip you can give him as a first-year coach coaching these youngsters?
Well, hopefully he's a coach that has a lot of practice time available to him at that young age. That's the most important thing is get on the floor and get the ball in their stick and work on your skills as much as possible, because those kids are going to get more out of a 60-minute practice than a 60-minute game, as far as the amount of time that they may have the ball in their stick, or a goaltender be facing some shots, or a defensive player, learning how to check or getting that opportunity. So the biggest tip would be to get them on the floor as much as you can. I know as kids, parents, and coaches, you get wrapped up and you want to play the games because you see an end result. But the most important part of that age is get on the floor as much as you can in practice time.
Yeah, and maybe have a little bit of fun to go along with it, right?
Well, exactly. As I say, you don't need to be working on your systems. Get the ball out there, work on skills, get a ball on everybody's stick, because the reality is you go and watch a novice game and there's some kids that might have the ball in their stick for a total of 30 seconds or a minute throughout the whole game, right? So get everybody involved, get everybody active, and like you said, having fun, but working on their skills.
Yeah, because if you're a guy like, say, like a Troy Cordonley, you're trying to run power play plays when these guys are coming out of mini tech, right?
Yeah. I can't speak for Troy, but a lot of times you go watch. My belief is a lot of minor coaches can get wrapped up in the end result, and I think that's one of the reasons why minor lacrosse put in the rules about offense and defense, because kids were just getting pigeonholed at a young age and not getting an opportunity to do everything.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
While everybody wants to win, at that age, work on the skills. That's what's best for them. Especially
at that age. Hey, Matt Sawyer, thanks for the time, man. Glad we got a chance to catch up, and best of luck with the Rock the rest of the year, and see if you can add another banner there to the Scotiabank Center.
Well, thank you. We've got into the playoffs, and now the goal is to win one game, and we'll worry about the banner later. But you guys take care, and thanks for having me on, and keep up the good work.
Pleasure. Matt Sawyer, head coach of the Toronto Rock. We will talk about those Toronto Rock coming up here. Who you got coming up? I think Toronto's got a bye week, though, don't they? They do. Anyways, we'll talk about the upcoming matchups in Week 19. How about that? When we return to X-Treme Threads, Lacrosse Classified here on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Serving the business and sports community since 2018, X-Treme Threads provides custom design apparels around the world. Specializing in lacrosse, they deliver exceptional quality and service, customizing box and field team apparel and uniforms. X-Treme Threads offers free design work and takes the time to ensure you get exactly what you need for your team or club. Contact X-Treme Threads at sales@extremethreads.ca for your custom apparel needs today.
This is John Tavares, and you're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Star Podcast Network.
Welcome back to X-Treme Threads, Lacrosse Classified here on Lax All-Stars. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer with you. Big thanks to Matt Sawyer for stopping by the podcast. And, of course, the biggest thanks goes out to you, the listener. But the second biggest thanks goes out to our title sponsor, X-Treme Threads. Customize your team with X-Treme. I don't know if you follow along on their Instagram account or not, Evan. You better if you don't. At X-Treme Threads, they are cranking out all sorts of cool uniforms. They got it all. T-shirts, practice pennies, jackets, gear bags, you name it, they got it. Whatever you need, give them a call or go to sales@extremethreads.ca. When you do, make sure you mention my name. Call me Jake, Jumbo, PXP for sports, whatever you want. Mention my name when you sign your team up for an apparel package, whatever that may be. Your coach and your manager, they get free stuff. That's how it works right here in X-Treme. But
and it is nice stuff.
Oh,
I'm not saying this lightly. It is gorgeous.
Man.
If you have not checked it out, go to their website. Like, this is the best of the best. It really is.
Yeah, and they do, teams over. I know they did a bunch of teams for the Alice Rescue tournament coming up. They go crazy, like worldwide. They're international, Evan Schemenauer. All right, so we got to get into who you got now, and you know the deal. It's presented by Stampede Tack and Western Wear. They are your complete source for boots. Got those brand new Blundstones. Can't wait for fall. I'm not a big boot guy in the summertime. I kind of like the flip-flops, the sandals in the summertime. But when fall rolls around, I'll be back in my Blundstones. You can guarantee that. You can get those in a huge selection of cowboy boots as well. They're all CSA approved. They ship Canada-wide in Cloverdale. Shop online, stampede.ca. Rodeo just around the corner. Always a lot of fun out there in Cloverdale. Anyways, who you got? You were in a lead by 7 games here. There was 5 games this week. So, like I said, I don't think it really matters who you pick. I think I'm just going to pick with my head this week and try and make my record as respectable as it can be. And hey, if I make a bit of a comeback during that time, so be it. And if I don't, well, c'est la vie. Game on Friday, and it's a big one right out of the gates here, Evan. 6-10 Colorado Mammoth still trying to punch that playoff ticket. They'll head to Pechanga and take on the Seals, who were reeling a little bit with a few straight losses here. 9-7 now for San Diego. Mammoth at the Seals. Evan, who you got?
And injury problems for both sides, which could play in effect here, but it's the Eli McLaughlin injury that's bigger in this one here. Whether he plays or not, we don't know. But this Colorado offense has just completely sputtered. San Diego, if they score 10, they probably win this game. So I'm taking the Seals.
Yeah, a little more depth offensively there, I think, for San Diego than they've just gone really young there in Colorado with Killen and Rouet and Lee, and I mean Vitarelli's a veteran over there, but Wardle's still pretty young. So they've gone really young there in Colorado, and they struggle to score goals. What do I have written down? I have San Diego written down. See, I plugged my ears there until the very end, so I didn't want to hear who you picked, but I took San Diego in that one as well. Now this we go from a really important game to a game that maybe doesn't have a whole lot of significance here. Philadelphia into Georgia, 3-14. Something on the line here for Georgia. It's an important game for them. 12-5 Swarm Wings at the Swarm. Evan, who you got?
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second, just how important this is for the Swarm. But the way Philly played this past weekend, like it was an embarrassing.
It was concerning. It was concerning that they just rolled over in the first quarter like that.
Yeah, and in the fourth quarter, the game before, there's no way you can possibly take Philly going to Georgia the way they're playing right now. It's an easy pick. It's a Swarm.
Agreed. Let's move on. 2-5-11 teams going head-to-head here. Vancouver with a long trip, and I've done this trip. It's a long one. To Rochester, New York. 5-11 Warriors, 5-11 Nighthawks. Evan, who you got?
The travel's a concern. Plus, Rochester has been playing extremely well. For a team that's out of it, they're playing extremely well. I'm taking the Nighthawks. I just think they're the better team right now.
I think that too. This is kind of a boring who you got, but it is what it is. I'm taking Rochester as well, all for the same reasons that you just listed, Evan. Next game up is New England at Buffalo. 8-8 Black Wolves, 12-4 Bandits in Bandit Land. Evan, Steve Bermel will get the call on color to go along with their buddy John Gertler for this one. Evan, Black Wolves, Bandits, who you got?
Once again, the East record for those 4 teams in the playoffs at home is 28-6. On top of the fact that this game is irrelevant to New England, they're locked into their playoff spot. Buffalo, if they win 2 in a row, they get that first spot. Bandits have something to play for, and New England doesn't. I'm taking the Bandits.
Oh, my goodness. I'm taking the Bandits as well. Well, I told you, I'm just going to pick who I think is going to win. That's what I'm doing. So I'm not going to go against that now. One more game to go. Saskatchewan and Calgary with a season series on the line here, Evan. This is a really intriguing game here. 10-6 Saskatchewan, 9-8 Calgary. Calgary playing very, very good lacrosse right now, but so are the Rush, which makes this game pretty tough to pick. Evan, you got to do it first. Evan and Schemenauer, who you got?
It's a tough one, and I think the last time these guys played in Calgary, it was an overtime win for the Rush, so it's not an easy pick. But I'm going to take the Rush. So it's 2 wins this week. just tell me that they turn that corner. That's the championship team that we've seen from the Rush, so I'm going to take them in this game.
I am going to take the Rush as well. It would not surprise me, though, really. It really wouldn't if Calgary wins this game. I hope they don't, because I'm picking the Rush, but it would not surprise me if they do. So with just a couple of, that's Stampede Tack. So we want to recap that one more time, because we have the same picks in every single game here, Evan. Should be pretty straightforward, but Colorado at San Diego, we both took the Seals. Philly at Georgia, we both got the Swarm. Vancouver at Rochester, we're both taking the Nighthawks. Black Wolves and Bandits, we're both taking Buffalo. Saskatchewan at Calgary, we both got the Rush. Now, Stampede Tax, who you got? A couple more minutes to go here on episode number 23. League awards, got to start thinking about those, Evan, with just a couple of weeks to go in the regular season. We're not going to go through them all now, but start getting that on the mind a little bit, because we're just a couple of weeks away from the end of the season here. I want to send out a quick thank you here to Rush Nation. I know it was Fan Appreciation Night on Saturday night, and it was a great time at SaskTel Center. But I just continue when I'm in and around Saskatchewan, walking around the arena or at the hotel or whatever. I continually get people coming up and welcoming me to the Rush and saying thank you for the job that I do. I always get a little weird when I get compliments, but I just want to give my thanks back to Rush Nation. How welcoming they've been to me, and what a great season it's been with my first year with Saskatchewan, and that goes to the ownership, the management, the coaches, the players, the fans, the people of Saskatoon. Everybody has just been ultra fabulous to me, and I'm so happy to be a part of things there in Saskatchewan. So I just wanted to, while the hashtag was going out and around, thank you, Rush Nation. I wanted to thank Rush Nation. Broadcast news. The crews have been picked for the finals. I am quite happy for a couple of good buddies of mine. Brian Shanahan, Brendan's brother, and Brendan Glasheen will be calling the finals from the East, wherever they happen to be, along with Miss Ashley Docking between the benches for the games in the East as far as the NLL finals go. And in the West, a couple of guys very deserving of an opportunity here. In my former partner in Vancouver, Brad Challoner, will get the call on color, and the Colorado Mammoth play-by-play man, one Teddy Edward Jenner, will be your play-by-play voice for the game in the West. And it'll just be one single game in the West here, because the East is going to have home floor in the NLL finals. I think that's
not necessarily.
Well, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Not in stone yet, but I got a pretty good feeling that's going to be an Eastern home floor advantage in the finals. So congratulations to everybody. Oh, Ashley Docking will also be between the benches when the game is in the West as well. So congratulations to those 5 fine folks. Much deserved, and they're all going to do a great job. Playoff scenarios, Evan Schemenauer, you got some juicy ones for us before we get you on your way here?
Yeah, so the East is not as simple, actually, as the West has now become very simple. New England is locked into the 4th spot in the East. For Toronto, they're probably locked into the 3rd. What they need to get into 2nd is they need to win their final game, and for Buffalo to lose both. It's going to be tough, but they can't get 1st. They couldn't move up to 2nd. For Buffalo and Georgia, they're both on 12 wins, and Georgia has the tiebreak, but Buffalo has one extra game. So Buffalo, if they win both their games, or if they win one and Georgia loses, Buffalo is 1st. But in fact, if Buffalo loses both and Toronto wins, Buffalo can fall as far as 3rd, but Georgia cannot go beyond 2nd. That's the way that one stands. In the West, Colorado, Vancouver, both can't do any better than 4th. Of course, Vancouver has to win out. Colorado has to lose out, because Colorado has the tiebreak between the two of them. At the top, you got the Rush at 10-6. San Diego 9-7, Calgary 8-8. Now the Rush have a tiebreak on the Seals. The Seals have a tiebreak on the Roughnecks. If it happens to go that way, the Roughnecks would have the tiebreak on the Rush if they were tied. And in a 3-way tie, it's the Rush, Seals, Roughnecks. So that kind of simplifies things. The Rush need one win in their last 2 games to finish 1st. And they can even still finish first, even if they lose the last 2 games and San Diego splits. So there's a lot of probabilities, and that's why I say 88% that the Rush finish, because of the 16 possibilities, 14 of them fall to the Rush in first. For the Seals, they're probably locked in the second. They can win the West if they win both of their remaining games and Saskatchewan loses both. It's probably not going to happen. But they can actually slip the third if they lose both games and Calgary beats Saskatchewan. Any other possibility, they're in second. And for the Roughnecks, they have to win this game to avoid third this week, but they can still finish third. They can actually finish first if both Saskatchewan and San Diego lose every game. There's a few ways for them to get second still, but it involves either the Seals losing both or the Rush losing both. Calgary's probably in the 3 spot, but it is still not entirely over yet.
The great thing about podcasts is that you can pause it, you can fast forward it, you can rewind it, and I'm probably going to have to do that just to go over all those playoff scenarios again. I don't know how you keep all that straight, Evan. I really don't.
You can go onto my Twitter account, it's all listed there. So it's much easier to read.
Well, I'm encouraging people to re-listen to the podcast, and you're sending them to your Twitter account. Something's wrong with that message there, Evan. But anyways, nicely done on the playoff scenarios. You sent me an email, and they're like, easy math. And then listed all these scenarios. I was like, yeah, easy math for a chartered accountant, not for a washed-up jock turned broadcaster. So anyways, I let smarter people than myself figure all those scenarios out. You did a fine job of that. One more thing before we get you on your way here on Lacrosse Classified. Jamie Monroe, my good buddy Jamie Monroe, former coach at Denver and host of the Lacrossophy podcast. Check that out. Also does like a virtual lacrosse summit, does lots of video training and all that sort of stuff. Apparently Darius Kilgore was supposed to be his guest this week and he bailed out, so he's asked me to do it. So I'm going to be on the virtual lacrosse summit with Jamie Monroe. Check him out at JM3 Coach at Twitter as well, and I'll look forward to that. So I'll be posting that up. So check that out. We're gonna look at highlights, I believe, from the Bandit Swarm game and kind of break down some box lacrosse together over a video chat. I've never done anything like that before, but I'm looking forward to it with my man Jamie Monroe. All right, there's episode 23 in the books. Once again, our sponsors, make sure you are supporting those guys because they support us, which supports the show. It all ties in nicely. So anytime you need some gear for your lacrosse team, or you need a package or a label, or you need some supplements or some country gear, check out our sponsors, Pure Vita Labs, Associated Labels and Packaging, X-Treme Threads, and Stampede Tack and Western Wear. Big thanks to Matt Sawyer and Derek Keenan for coming on the podcast, and to you, of course, the loyal listener, for listening to Lacrosse Classified each and every week right here on Lax All-Stars. That's going to do it. Don't forget, subscribe to the podcast. We've got to make sure we get that in, Evan. You can find us on Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and social media as well, at ShemLax, at PXP for Sports. The show is at Lax Class. For Evan Schemenauer, I've been Jake Elliott, and for the fastest game on 2 feet, and for the creator, thanks for listening to X-Treme Threads, Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.